The truth about open-world games is that most of them are bloated messes that waste your time with filler content, copy-paste objectives, and maps so big they forget to put anything interesting in them. Everyone's tired of climbing towers, collecting feathers, or doing the same side quest 47 times with different dialogue. But when an open world game gets it right, when exploration feels rewarding, when the world feels alive, when you actually want to see what's over the next hill, that's when gaming hits different. So I went through every major open world game on PS5 and made a list of the ones that actually respect your time and deliver on the promise of freedom. These aren't just big maps, these are worlds worth exploring, stories worth experiencing, and adventures that justify every hour you spend in them. If you're tired of mediocre open world games and want to know which ones are actually worth playing, hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. This is my breakdown of 19 open world PS5 games that prove the genre isn't dead. It just needs developers who understand what makes exploration exciting. And just so we're clear, this list is in no particular order. Game 1 isn't better than Game 19. They're all incredible for different reasons. Let's get into it. Dying Light 2 is one of the best parkour games ever made, and the open world traversal is genuinely incredible. You're playing as Aiden Caldwell, navigating a zombie-infested city where the infected own the night. The parkour system is fluid and responsive, vaulting over obstacles, grappling between buildings, gliding with the paraglider. Movement feels so good that you'll ignore fast travel just to traverse the city. The day-night cycle creates real tension. During the day, you're exploring, looting, and completing missions. At night, the infected become aggressive, and getting caught outside is terrifying. The combat is melee-focused, with weapon crafting and modifications. The story involves faction choices that shape the city. Allying with peacekeepers or survivors changes the world in meaningful ways. The co-op is fun. Up to 4 players can explore together, and tackling challenges with friends is chaotic and satisfying. The world is dense with activities, side quests, outposts, collectibles, and the verticality makes exploration rewarding. Dying Light 2 had a rough launch, but post-launch updates have improved it significantly. If you want parkour-focused open-world gameplay with zombie survival, this is the best option on PS5.
Hogwarts Legacy is the Harry Potter game we've been waiting for since childhood, and it actually delivers. You're a 5th-year student at Hogwarts with a mysterious connection to ancient magic, and the world is yours to explore. The castle is massive, beautifully detailed, and packed with secrets. Flying on a broom across the Scottish Highlands, attending classes, brewing potions, fighting dark wizards, it's all here, and it works. The highlights are the exploration and world building, walking through the halls of Hogwarts and recognizing locations from the books and films, discovering hidden rooms, solving puzzles in ancient ruins, battling trolls and poachers in the Forbidden Forest. The main story involves a goblin rebellion and ancient magic, and while it's not groundbreaking, it's engaging enough to keep you invested. The combat is surprisingly good. You're chaining spells, dodging attacks, using the environment to your advantage. The Room of Requirement customization is addictive, and the variety of activities, broom races, magical creature care, potion brewing, keeps things fresh. Hogwarts Legacy isn't perfect. The story is safe, the side content can feel repetitive, but it's a complete, polished experience that lets you live in the Harry Potter world.
Subnautica is one of the best survival games ever made, and it's an underwater open-world adventure that's equal parts beautiful and terrifying. You're stranded on an alien ocean planet after your ship crashes, and you have to survive by exploring, gathering resources, and building bases. The world is massive, filled with diverse biomes, shallow coral reefs, deep trenches, underwater caves, and open ocean that goes down forever. The exploration is the hook. Every dive reveals something new, a wreck to explore, a creature to scan, a biome you didn't know existed. The progression feels natural. You start with basic tools and gradually unlock submarines, advanced equipment, and base building capabilities. The creature designs are incredible. Some are beautiful and harmless. Others are massive and terrifying. The first time you encounter a Reaper Leviathan in the deep, you'll understand true fear. The story is surprisingly engaging. You're uncovering the mystery of what happened to the planet, why you crashed, and how to escape. The pacing is player-driven. You explore at your own pace, and the game respects your curiosity. Subnautica is one of the most unique open-world experiences on PS5, and if you love exploration and don't mind some tension, this is essential. Watch Dogs Legion is Ubisoft's most ambitious take on the franchise, and while it's flawed, the concept is fascinating. You're building a resistance in near-future London by recruiting literally anyone in the world. Every NPC can be recruited, and each has unique skills, backstories, and voice acting. The play-as-anyone system is incredible when it works, building a team of specialists for different missions. The world is dystopian London under authoritarian rule, and the city is beautifully realized. Iconic landmarks, underground tunnels, corporate skyscrapers, it's dense and fun to explore. The hacking mechanics are refined from previous games, letting you control drones, manipulate environments, and take down enemies non-lethally. The DualSense adds feedback to hacking and combat. The issues, the story suffers from the play-as-anyone system. No single protagonist means less emotional investment. The missions can be repetitive, and the performance can dip in crowded areas. But the concept is bold, and when you're orchestrating a heist with a construction worker, a hacker, and a spy, it's genuinely fun. Legion is worth checking out if you want something different.
Far Cry 6 is classic Ubisoft open-world chaos, and if you're okay with the formula, it's a blast. You're playing as Danny Rojas, fighting a revolution against a dictator in the fictional Caribbean island of Yara. Young Carlo Esposito as a villain is the highlight. His performance is menacing, charismatic, and layered. The world is vibrant, colorful, and packed with activities. The gameplay loop is familiar. Liberate outposts, recruit allies, gather resources, upgrade gear. The gunplay is satisfying, and the new Supremo backpacks add variety. Rocket launchers, EMP blasts, healing fields. The vehicle combat is chaotic, and the co-op is fun if you have a friend. The world is gorgeous. Beaches, jungles, cities, and exploring it is relaxing between story missions. Far Cry 6 isn't innovative, but it's polished and entertaining. The story has moments of emotional weight, and the side content, treasure hunts, cockfighting, controversial but optional, racing, keeps you busy. If you're burned out on Far Cry, this won't change your mind. But if you want a competent, content-rich open-world shooter, Far Cry 6 delivers exactly what you'd expect. Days Gone is one of the most underrated open-world games on PS5, and it deserves way more love than it got at launch. You're playing as Deacon St. John, a biker surviving in post-apocalyptic Oregon overrun by freakers, zombies. The world is beautiful. Forests, mountains, abandoned towns, and exploring it on your motorcycle is genuinely fun. The bike customization and management adds a survival layer that keeps you engaged. The standout moments are the horde fights. Stumbling into a horde of hundreds of freakers and realizing you're completely unprepared is terrifying. Planning an assault, setting traps, crafting explosives, creating choke points, and then executing it perfectly is incredibly satisfying. The story is slower paced, but emotionally engaging, and Deacon's relationship with his wife Sarah drives the narrative. The PS5 version runs at 60 FPS with improved load times, and the world is gorgeous. The weather effects, the day-night cycle, the dynamic events, it all creates a living, dangerous world. Days Gone isn't perfect. The pacing drags in the middle and some missions are repetitive, but the highs are incredible. If you want a survival open-world game with actual stakes, give Days Gone a chance. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the middle chapter of the FF7 Remake trilogy, and it's the most ambitious, creative, and emotionally charged JRPG in years. The world opens up massively from the first game. You're exploring multiple regions, riding chocobos, tackling side content that's actually fun, and watching Cloud's mental state slowly unravel. The open world structure is new for the series, and it works. The combat is peak action RPG. You're swapping between characters mid-battle, chaining abilities, exploiting weaknesses, and the synergy attacks between party members are satisfying as hell. The boss fights are spectacular. Battling a Midgar Zolom in the swamps, the rematch with Rude and Reno on the cargo ship, the absolute chaos of the Temple of the Ancient sequence. The set pieces rival any AAA blockbuster. The emotional moments land. Aerith's character development, Cloud's deteriorating grip on reality, Tifa trying to hold everyone together, it's all handled with care and nuance. The side content, Queen's Blood card game, chocobo racing, party banter during exploration, adds personality. Rebirth is long, 60+ hours, but it earns every minute. If you loved the original FF7 or just want a JRPG that goes all in on spectacle and heart, Rebirth delivers. No Man's Sky had one of the most disastrous launches in gaming, but years of free updates have transformed it into one of the best open-world, open-universe games you can play.
You're exploring procedurally generated planets, building bases, managing resources, and uncovering the mysteries of the Atlas. The scale is incomprehensible. Billions of planets, each with unique ecosystems, weather, and wildlife. The exploration is the hook, landing on a new planet and not knowing what you'll find. Lush forests, toxic wastelands, frozen tundras, oceans filled with bizarre creatures. The base building is deep, letting you create settlements, farms, and automated resource systems. The multiplayer lets you explore with friends, and the story, fragmented but intriguing, ties everything together. The PS5 version runs smoothly, with faster load times and improved visuals. The DualSense adds feedback to mining, flying, and combat. No Man's Sky is proof that redemption arcs are possible. If you want endless exploration, creative freedom, and a universe that keeps expanding with free content, this is essential. It's not perfect, but the ambition and commitment from Hello Games is inspiring.
Dragon's Dogma 2 is Capcom's long-awaited sequel, and it's a flawed but fascinating open-world RPG. You're creating a character, recruiting AI companions called pawns, and exploring a massive world filled with monsters, dungeons, and secrets. The combat is the star. Climbing on giant monsters, exploiting weaknesses, and coordinating with your pawns creates emergent moments that feel genuinely epic. The world is dense and dangerous. Fast travel is limited, forcing you to plan expeditions and deal with threats along the way. Night is genuinely terrifying. Visibility drops, stronger enemies appear, and getting caught out in the dark creates real tension. The vocation system lets you swap classes, and experimenting with builds is half the fun. The griffin fights, the dragon encounters, the late-game boss battles, it's all spectacular. The issues? Performance can be rough in cities, and some design choices are divisive. But the core loop, exploring, fighting, building your party, is addictive. Dragon's Dogma 2 isn't for everyone, but if you want an open-world RPG that takes risks and rewards experimentation, this is it. It's rough around the edges, but the highs are incredible.
Death Stranding Director's Cut is Kojima doing Kojima things, but the PS5 version adds enough new content and technical polish to make it the definitive edition. The DualSense work is phenomenal. You feel every step across rocky terrain, every raindrop, every piece of cargo shifting on your back. The adaptive triggers give feedback when you balance, and the haptics make traversal, yes, walking, feel strangely immersive. The world is massive and desolate in the best way. You're a courier reconnecting a fractured America, and the gameplay loop is about planning routes, building infrastructure, and helping other players. The BT encounters, where you're sneaking through timefall rain while ghosts hunt you, are some of the tensest moments in gaming. The late-game cliff battles, where you're fighting through war-torn memories, benefit massively from improved performance. Death Stranding isn't for everyone. It's slow, it's weird, it's extremely Kojima. But if you're willing to meet it on its terms, it's one of the most unique open-world experiences you can have. The sense of collaborative world building where you're leaving structures for other players creates something genuinely special. On PS5, it's the best version of a game that's unlike anything else. Assassin's Creed Mirage is Ubisoft's attempt to return to the roots of the franchise.
I must learn
And
all
it
I can
works.
about them.
The game is smaller, tighter, and more focused than recent games. You're playing as
Nothing
Basim
can
in
stop
9th
me from
century
finding
Baghdad, and the emphasis is on parkour, stealth, and
I am not sure
assassinations
what scares
rather
me
than
more,
art.
finding my
The
father's
city
resting
is
place,
beautifully
or
designed,
finding nothing
dense,
at all.
vertical, and filled with opportunities for creative
if
kills.
he is
The best
not
part?
dead,
It respects your time.
that is
No
still hope.
100-hour grind, no endless
The men
map
you
clutter.
seek
Just a focused
dangerous.
15 to 20-hour story about Basim's journey from
Turn
street
draws
thief
near,
to master
friend.
assassin.
Why
The parkour is smooth at
involve
60
him?
FPS.
Your
and
fight
the
is with
DualSense adds
me.
feedback to
Where
climbing,
is my
assassinations, and
father?
tool usage. The Hidden One's bureau infiltration, where you're sneaking through a fortress using every tool in your arsenal, feels like classic AC. The story explores Basim's past and his connection to the ISIL, setting up future games while telling a part. Baghdad is a visual tourist spot. Markets, rooftops, underground tunnels. Mirage isn't revolutionary, but it's competent, polished, and built for the PS5 and PlayStation. If you've been burned out on bloated Ubisoft games, Mirage is a refreshing return. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is Ubisoft's most ambitious entry in the series, and while it's bloated, it's also one of the most enjoyable if you're willing to commit. You're playing as Eivor, a Viking raider building a settlement in England while navigating political alliances and Norse mythology. The world is massive. England, Norway, mythical realms, and the variety keeps things fresh even across 60+ hours. The highlights are the raid mechanics and settlement building. Calling your crew to storm monasteries, fighting alongside your clan, and watching your settlement grow as you invest resources, it all feels satisfying. The story arcs are hit or miss, but the best ones, like the London Conspiracy or the Asgard Visions, are genuinely compelling. The combat is visceral, dual-wielding axes, executing finishers, using abilities in chaotic battles. The DualSense adds feedback to every weapon type, and the world is gorgeous. Exploring the English countryside, discovering Roman ruins, raiding fortresses, it's classic Assassin's Creed at its most epic. Valhalla is long, sometimes too long, but if you pace yourself and focus on the content you enjoy, it's a satisfying Viking power fantasy. Just be prepared for the commitment. Ghost of Tsushima already felt like a masterpiece on PS4, but the director's cut on PS5 elevates it to another level. The game runs at 60 FPS in both performance and resolution modes, and the difference is transformative. Every sword swing, every gust of wind, every blade of grass moves with fluidity that makes combat feel like you're inside a Kurosawa film. The DualSense adds tension to your bow, feedback to every parry, and the haptic wind guiding you toward objectives is genius. The Iki Island expansion is phenomenal. It's darker, more personal, and pushes Jin to confront his past in ways the base game didn't. The new enemy types force you to adapt, and the duels, especially the fight against the eagle in a thunderstorm, are some of the most cinematic boss encounters I've experienced. The base game story of honor versus survival still hits hard, and the standoff system, where you're facing down enemies in tense showdowns, never gets old. The load times are instant. You die, you're back in 3 seconds. You fast travel, boom, you're there. The flow never breaks. Tsushima is beautiful. Autumn forests, rice fields, beaches, mountains, and exploring it is meditative. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut isn't just a visual upgrade. It's the definitive version of one of the best open-world games of the generation. This is samurai gaming perfected. Cyberpunk 2077 had one of the worst launches in gaming history, but in 2025, after years of patches and the Phantom Liberty expansion, it's finally the game it should have been. The Ultimate Edition on PS5 runs smoothly, looks incredible, and Night City is one of the most detailed open worlds ever created. The verticality, the density, the sheer amount of things to see and do, it's overwhelming in the best way. The Phantom Liberty expansion is phenomenal. You're working with a rogue FIA agent in Dogtown, a walled-off district filled with espionage, betrayal, and moral gray areas. The new characters, Solomon Reed, voiced by Idris Elba, Songbird, are excellently written, and the ending choices are brutal. The base game's main quests, the heist, the Johnny Silverhand relationship, the final mission, are all elevated by performances that make you care. The combat has been overhauled. Net running, melee builds, stealth, gunplay, it all feels refined and balanced. The DualSense adds feedback to hacking, driving, and shooting. Night City at night is one of the most atmospheric settings in gaming. Neon lights, rain-soaked streets, crowds of NPCs. Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition is proof that redemption arcs are possible. If you wrote it off at launch, give it another chance. This is the version that delivers on the promise.
Red Dead Redemption 2 is Rockstar's most ambitious game, and on PS5, it's never looked or played better. You're playing as Arthur Morgan, an outlaw in the dying days of the Wild West, and the story is a slow-burn masterpiece about loyalty, morality, and the cost of living outside the law. The world is the most detailed, reactive, and alive open world ever created. Every NPC has routines. Every town feels lived in, and every encounter feels organic. The highlights are the quiet moments. Sitting by a campfire with your gang, listening to stories, riding through the grizzlies as snow falls, hunting in the forests and watching wildlife interact naturally. But the action set pieces are incredible too. The bank robbery in Saint Denis, the train heist, the final standoff. The gunplay is weighty and satisfying, and the DualSense adds feedback to every shot, every reload, every horseback gallop. The PS5 version runs at a smooth frame rate with faster load times, and the world is so dense with detail that you can spend 100+ hours and still find new things. The side content, stranger missions, hunting, fishing, poker, is all substantial. Red Dead 2 demands patience, but if you're willing to slow down and live in its world, it's one of the most rewarding experiences in gaming. This is open world design as art.
Horizon Forbidden West Complete Edition is Guerrilla Games taking everything from the first game and expanding it in every direction. Aloy's journey westward is filled with emotional beats, massive robot dinosaur fights, and world-ending stakes that keep the momentum high. The Complete Edition includes the Burning Shores DLC, which adds a new area, story content, and some of the most visually impressive set pieces on PS5. The standout moments are cinematic as hell. The opening battle in the desert with the bristleback stampede, the underwater ruins of Las Vegas where you're exploring flooded casinos while dodging snapmaws. The Burning Shores DLC adds a volcanic archipelago with flying mounts and a boss fight against the Horus that's genuinely spectacular. The final battle against Spectre Prime in the base game, where you're using every weapon and skill you've learned, is epic. The DualSense makes every bowstring pull, every tripwire snap, and every machine takedown feel tactile. The visuals are some of the best on PS5. Performance mode runs at 60 FPS and still looks better than most games' fidelity modes. The world is massive, but fast travel is instant thanks to the SSD. Forbidden West proves that open-world games don't need to feel sluggish anymore. This is exploration, combat, and storytelling firing on all cylinders. Spider-Man 2 takes everything the first two games did and cranks it up until it feels like controlled chaos in the best possible way. You're playing as both Peter and Miles, the story actually justifies having two Spider-Man, and the web-slinging has never felt better. The addition of web wings turns traversal into this flow state where you're gliding between skyscrapers at ridiculous speeds, and the PS5 handles it without a single stutter. The Venom arc is where this game earns its place on this list. You're not just fighting a villain, you're watching Peter lose himself to the symbiote, and the performances are incredible. The moment where you're playing as Venom, ripping through enemies with zero mercy, is visceral and uncomfortable in the best way. Then there's the Peter versus Miles fight in the third act, where you're swapping between perspectives mid-battle and the emotional weight hits hard. The set pieces are summer blockbuster moments, collapsing amusement parks, symbiote-infested streets, boss fights on crumbling bridges. The DualSense makes every web swing, every punch, every symbiote tendril feel distinct. Manhattan is dense and alive, and even after the story, you'll find yourself just swinging around because it feels so good. Spider-Man 2 proves open-world superhero games can be tight, focused, and respect your time. This is the blueprint. The Witcher 3 on PS5 is the definitive version of one of the greatest RPGs ever made, and even years later, it's still the gold standard for open-world storytelling. You're playing as Geralt of Rivia, hunting monsters and searching for Ciri while navigating political intrigue and moral gray areas. The world is massive, multiple regions, hundreds of quests, and every single one feels handcrafted. No copy-paste content here. The standout moments are everywhere. The Bloody Baron questline, which is emotionally devastating and morally complex. The Battle of Kaer Mohan, where you're defending your home with friends. The Hearts of Stone expansion, which has some of the best villain writing in gaming. The side quests aren't just filler, they're full stories with beginnings, middles, and endings. You're investigating murders, lifting curses, solving mysteries, and every choice has weight. The PS5 version adds 60 FPS performance, faster load times, and DualSense integration that makes combat feel more impactful. The world is gorgeous. Forests, swamps, cities, mountains, and exploring it never gets old. The Complete Edition includes all DLC, which means you're getting 100+ hours of content. If you somehow missed The Witcher 3, the PS5 version is the perfect excuse to dive in. This is open world storytelling at its absolute peak. Elden Ring is From Software taking the Souls formula and exploding it into a massive open world, and somehow it works perfectly. You're dropped into the lands between with zero handholding, and the game trusts you to figure it out. The freedom is intoxicating. You can go anywhere, tackle bosses in any order, build your character however you want. It's punishing, cryptic, and absolutely brilliant. The mandatory bosses are unforgettable. Margit, the Fell Omen, teaching you humility at the gates of Stormvale. Star Scourge Radahn's meteor attack that obliterates you if you're not ready. Melania, Blade of Miquella, who will destroy you hundreds of times until you master her patterns. The world design is stunning, crumbling castles, underground cities, alien landscapes that feel genuinely otherworldly. Riding Torrent across open fields while discovering ruins, caves, and secrets is one of the purest joys in modern gaming. The DualSense adds subtle feedback to every weapon, every spell, every dodge roll. The load times are fast enough that dying doesn't break momentum. You're back in the fight within seconds. The story is classic From Software cryptic nonsense, but the environmental storytelling and item descriptions reward curiosity. Elden Ring is massive, difficult, and occasionally frustrating, but it's also one of the most rewarding open-world experiences you can have. This is exploration done right.
Look, this list is subjective, and I'm sure I missed someone's favorite open-world game. Maybe you think I'm crazy for including Watch Dogs Legion, or maybe you're mad I didn't rank Elden Ring #1. That's fine. Open-world games are personal experiences, and what resonates with me might not hit the same for you. The point is, these 19 games prove that open-world design isn't dead. It just needs developers who understand what makes exploration meaningful. So here's the question. Which open-world game on PS5 is your favorite? Did I sleep on something? Are you planning to tackle any of these? Let me know in the comments. And if you're sitting there with a backlog of unfinished open-world games wondering which one to start next, hopefully this video gives you a direction. Also, if your partner sees you starting another 100-hour RPG after watching this, I'm sorry, but also, you're welcome. If this video helped you figure out which massive worlds are actually worth your time, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll keep making these as long as you keep watching. Now go pick a world and get lost in it.